Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Larson Dairy Virtual Chat. I am Brittany with Discover Dairy, and today is going to be so much fun. We've got Farmer Colleen on standby. We can see all of you checking in and your questions rolling in already in that chat. And we have two of the cutest calves, Daphne and Matilda, ready for their close-ups. This event is part of the Adopt a Cow program, where over 48,000 classes and 2.1 million students joined us for fun this year, all for free, thanks to our incredible supporters at the Dairy Council of Florida and the Dairy Excellence Foundation. And I know many of you are already excited for next year. So go ahead and mark your calendars because enrollment opens starting May 1st. You can go to discoverdairy.com/adopt once registration goes live. And because this chat is live, we want to hear from you. Go ahead and drop those questions and comments in that chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We are excited to fill that chat with all kinds of energy. Speaking of that chat, let's see who's joining us today. So, starting early on, who was one of the first people to join us today, we had Harvey K to eighth grade with Mrs. Coppola's class. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We have Mrs. Pelletier's first graders. Hello, and we're excited to have you. And they said we're excited to learn more. We are too. Let's see. We have Mrs. Razy's second grade class in St. Augustine. Hello and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. How about Mrs. Luby's class? And oh, they've already been asking some questions. I see that question, so we're excited. We will get to that soon. Thank you. And let's see. One or two more here. Mrs. Jones's fabulous firsties here in Titusville, Florida. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. And let's do one more. We have Miss Beline's Little Rainbows who are excited to join us today. So hello and welcome. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today. I know you're all excited to get to meet your calves and, of course, meet Farmer Colleen. Speaking of Farmer Colleen, I'm excited to introduce you to her. Hey, Farmer Colleen, how are you doing today?
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And Matilda and Daphne are ready to meet you all. We are coming to you from Larson Dairy. We have some heifers, Matilda and Daphne, and a lot of their friends in this pasture. So we will get started with questions and whatever you guys want to ask us.
Awesome. I love that. So, Farmer Colleen, we've absolutely loved getting to follow you this year and learning more about you and your farm. But for anyone that's joining us new today, can you just remind us what is your role with Larson Dairy and just give us a refresher on who Larson Dairy is, maybe how many cows and where you're located and that kind of thing?
So Larson Dairy is in Okeechobee, Florida. Several generations of the family help manage and run Larson Dairy. I am in charge of some of the calves, especially as you can see, some of the more colorful calves. You have a lot of brown Swiss and Jerseys here. I also work for the University of Florida as a dairy extension agent, so I have a couple roles at Larson Dairy. But the most fun one is definitely hanging out with these girls.
Oh,
So we have about 3,000 cows where these girls will get milked when they're about 2 years old when they become milk cows. And then there's three other units of various sizes, all right here in Okeechobee, Florida.
wow, that's incredible. So that's a lot of hats that you wear, Farmer Colleen, between all the different things that you're doing. We love that spending time with our adopted calves is a significant, right, an enjoyable part of your time as Farmer Colleen. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So let's start with getting an update on how our two girls are doing. So we'll let you point out one at a
They're
time,
kind of
hopefully.
hiding. Yes, they're
Yeah.
kind of hiding in the mix here. So Matilda's walking away. We'll try to give her a little follow over here. She's walking
Sounds
away
good.
from us. She is by far the biggest one in this group. She is tall, just like a Holstein should be. She's
No.
nice and big and tall, and has just grown up into such a beautiful heifer. But this is Matilda. And then,
Awesome.
of course, Daphne's right behind her. They spent a lot of time together this year, so they always
Oh,
hang together. Sometimes we see, cows kind of form friendships with each other, and Daphne and
sure.
Matilda have definitely done this. This is Crumble. She thinks this is
Oh.
her show today. But this is Daphne right here, a little smaller than Matilda, but such
Mhm.
a sweet, sweet, sweet brown Swiss. That's why I love their
Oh.
personalities because they're just so sweet.
That's awesome. So let's recap on where we were at height wise for them, and we'll give some estimates on where we think they're at now. So I
Okay.
know Matilda, you said she's getting really big. I know at the start of the year she was only 85 pounds and 30 inches. It's crazy to think she was that little once upon a time. And then
I
I know at the
know.
6 month update we said she was 390 pounds and 47 inches. How big do you think she is now, about a month and a half later?
So she's probably just grown another inch in height, but she's
Wow.
probably put on another 30 pounds. So maybe we
Wow.
should make them do the math, right?
Uh-huh. I like that. So 30 pounds plus 390 pounds. Let's see how much that is. And then 47 inches plus one. We'll give you that one. That's 48 inches.
That
So
one's pretty easy. That's right.
very nice. So yeah, absolutely getting really big. And then Daphne, I agree. Brown Swiss, they just have something so cute about their personalities. I love their big fluffy ears. But
Oh,
let's
yes.
see. When she was born, a little bit smaller. She was 29 inches and 70 pounds. And then at the last update, again, a little smaller, she had 360 pounds and 44 inches. So how much do you think Daphne had
She's
gained?
probably only put on about another 20 pounds, and we do
Okay,
estimates. We don't weigh them every day, but she's probably put
sure.
on another 20 pounds.
Okay.
And similarly, they're not growing a huge amount in height right now, so
Mhm.
just maybe another inch and a half.
Okay, gotcha. So that puts her at about 45 and a half inches, and 20 pounds plus 360 pounds gives us, anyone wants to put it in the chat, we'll let you go ahead and add that up. And that way you have one last height and weight that you can put on your growth chart in your classroom. So, wow, they really are getting so big. Now, Farmer Colleen, how big will they get when they're full grown? And when do you consider them full grown?
So they'll have their first calf when they're around 2 years old, and they won't be fully grown then. They won't be fully grown until they're about 3. But we would expect both of them to be around 1,600 pounds when they're full grown.
Wow.
Because I know who their moms are at the farm.
Mm,
Daphne's mom is Dot, and she's not the biggest brown Swiss, so she might only, be, around 1,300 pounds, but I definitely think that Matilda will be 1,400 pounds. So her mom Marcia is a big cow, and so I would expect her to follow in her steps.
wow. 1,600 and 1,300 pounds. That sounds like a big animal. How do you, as farmers, I mean, just animal handling in general, what are some things that you do or train or habits that you put in place for the animals to have safe animal handling? Because I would think if you're not used to it, that's a big animal to try and figure out how to help with give medications or just milk or just in general be around.
Well, you can see an example on both of these, and this is a little thing that I haven't done perfectly. But when they're newborns, we put a little paste on their horns, and
Hmm.
it dissolves their horns. Obviously, we're going to have to deal with this one a little differently later, but that
Sure.
protects the other cows, and it protects us working with them because they
Sure.
they are really big and they don't really know how big they are. But at the farm, one of the most important things that we have surfaces that we won't slip on and they won't slip on. But they're really creatures of habit. At the farm, the show cows are the ones that are a little bit challenging to move around because you can tell they just want attention. They just want to be around us. So they
Hmm.
they like to get petted, and not all cows at the farm enjoy that, but definitely these girls
Sure.
do. They love their attention.
Oh, awesome. So let's see. We had some folks curious. I mean, you talked a little bit about them, but personality wise, do you ever notice, one of them was more like super excited to see you, one was more standoffish, just maybe talking a little bit about, who they are as a cow?
Oh yeah, for sure. They definitely have personalities. Um, Samantha's here filming with me, and she's getting the personality of a Jersey, which we all know very well. She's having a hard time holding her ground here, but she'll be fine. We've already talked a little bit about Daphne.
Hmm.
Daphne just likes cuddles. She just likes to,
Oh.
be sweet at the fairs. When she'd go to the fairs, she would sleep the entire time. She would lay down. She would sprawl out. She is just so relaxed. Matilda's a little more not high strung, but just a little more alert, a little more engaged, a little more like paying attention. If somebody walked by, she would get up and look around. So their personalities really kind of out here, you don't see it as much, but when we took them to the shows and the fairs, their personalities really shone through.
Oh, awesome. Very
Now
cool.
I get the jersey.
Right? Yep. She's gonna come say hello, Farmer
Yes.
Colleen.
Yes. Good thing I did a good job on her horns.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. We have had so many amazing questions come in. So we're going to try and get to as many of them as we can in the next 15, 20 minutes here. So let's see.
Great.
We've got some folks who are curious. Are they producing milk now, Daphne and Matilda?
So no, they're not producing milk yet. They're still heifers. That means that they have not had a calf yet. You can see this is kind of their recess time. They're playing around a little bit. But they will not have their first calf until they're about 2, and they're just over 7 months old now. So they will start making milk after they have their first calf, just like all mammals, when they're about 2 years old.
Gotcha. Okay. So at 2, they'll finally start producing milk. And then what does that process look like when they start producing milk? They join the milking herd, but what is the actual milking process like for them?
So it's a little different at all farms. Some cows are milked 2 times a day, some are milked 3 times a day. They do have to be milked every single day. So when their calf is born, we will do a complete health check, just like a baby would at a hospital. We'll make sure that that calf is healthy, and we'll do all of the things we need to do. Feed it colostrum. That's the first milk. And then the cow will go into the milking herd. The calf will continue to be taken care of in a calf nursery. And then the cow will be milked 2 or 3 times a day. At our farm, they're milked 3 times a day.
Gotcha.
They spend the majority of their day laying down, eating,
Mm.
sleeping. Cows sleep for at least about half of the day, and then
Wow.
they eat for about 4 to 5 hours a day. So when they're back and forth to the milking parlor, that takes up about an hour and a half to about an hour and a half of their day. So the majority of
Okay.
their day, they are laying down, relaxing, eating, drinking, and even socializing. So this age, these heifers socialize a lot more than the cows. When they get to be older cows, they don't, socialize as much, but that still takes up about 30 minutes of their day.
Oh my goodness. I think it's time to be a cow because it sounds very relaxing and just the life that we want to have to be able to chill out and only have to work for an hour and a half a day. That
I
would be pretty
know.
nice.
And have a full buffet all day long. That's
Oh,
pretty cool too.
that's true. So we've actually have some folks asking about food, so it's a great segue. First we'll talk about our adopted calves. So we're curious, what are they eating right now? What's their diet like, and any idea how much they're eating?
Well, you see it right now. They are eating grass. They get fed twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon, and that's their grain. That contains the majority of their vitamins and minerals and all of that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
the rest of the day, they spend grazing. So, you guys are here in Florida like we are. That's one of the great things about Florida is we have grass all year long. So they do graze a lot. They're starting to be fully functional ruminants. That fourth stomach, the rumen, is really important for digesting grass and hay and all those forages. When they get older and they go to the farm, they will eat a diet that's called a TMR, a total mixed ration. And that's
Mm,
because we want every single bite of their diet to be exactly the same, because that's how they are consistently able to have enough energy and nutrients to make high quality milk and dairy products.
gotcha. Wow, that sounds like an amazing diet, and it sounds like a diet of an athlete, right? Like something that's specifically created just for them to make sure that it's working in the right ways and producing that quality, delicious milk. So awesome.
Absolutely. We know down to the parts per billion of every single nutrient that they need. We work really closely with our nutritionist. So
Wow.
things like selenium, and
Hmm.
choline and all of these, micro zinc, micro minerals. Zinc's a really cool one because it helps keep their hooves healthy. And so we know that, to walk back and forth to the parlor and have healthy feet, they need healthy hooves. So we know exactly how much biotin is in their diet. And it's really, I wish I had a nutritionist like they do. They have everything that they need, to do their best, because we are
Yeah.
asking a lot out of them to make the amount of milk. So like Matilda, her mom is making about 15 gallons of milk every day. So that is like a
Wow.
superstar, like an Olympic athlete.
Wow, that's amazing. And remind us one more time, how many cows do you milk at the farm?
3,000
Oh my goodness. Now I know
with a
her
lot of
mama,
help.
right? Yeah, I know her mama is on the higher end of that, but still 3,000 times maybe the average is like 8 to 10 gallons per cow,
Right,
right?
right.
That's a lot of gallons of milk every single
It sure
day.
is. It sure is. But we have a lot
Wow,
of people here in Florida. So we're one of the farthest south dairies in Florida. And so we have all of those cities that some of you might be from, like Miami and Fort Lauderdale and places south of here, that we are just honored and proud to provide milk for.
that's awesome. Speaking of that, do you have any idea where your milk goes? So when it leaves the farm, where does it go? And do you happen to know a brand name or a store or anything like that that it goes to?
So some of it goes to Publix, and then some of it goes to more specialty processing. So the Ice Cream Club is a popular ice cream brand here in Florida. They have
Hmm,
scoop shops and other places that use their ice cream mix and their ice creams, and so that's one of the places it could go.
cool.
Um, the MacArthur brand. There was a MacArthur dairy here in Florida, but that milk can come from any of the dairies here in Okeechobee, not just from the traditional MacArthur dairy. So Publix, or the brand that says MacArthur, or some specialty products like ice cream that is produced from cream from Florida.
That's awesome. And I know with Publix, they actually do some cool farm tours related, or actually plant tours that they'll do for schools. So shout out to
Yeah,
Publix. I actually got to try it when I was in Florida, and they were fantastic. And you get to try ice creams, and that milk could be coming from Larson Dairy. So how cool is that? I
that's
could have
right.
been potentially tasting some of the milk and the ice cream. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Questions, lots of questions are coming in. Oh, so we're curious. I know you mentioned one of the calves' names, but we see lots of friends with our two adopted calves. They're just curious what the other names are of the other
Oh, you're
girls.
going to really test me. So let's turn around here because I know this is Cordelia. She makes herself known for sure. That's Cordelia. Over here, this is America. You can see she is red, white, and she has a blue ear tag. So that's America.
Oh,
Over
cute.
here is Biscotti. She comes from a line of brown Swiss cows that all have B names that are something to do with food. So brown sugar,
Cute.
biscotti, brioche, beignet, those are all her relatives. This is Crumble. She was also kind of, making her appearance. There's one in here with no ear tag, and I was going to find her. Where'd she? I think, is she over here? Oh, not that one. The other one. Anyway, let's see. This one over here. This is Giselle, and this
Oh,
is Paris. Yes. Samantha, my
cute.
filmer's helping me because she showed a lot of these animals at the fair, so she remembers.
Oh,
They have
nice.
reasons that they have their names. Eiffel was the mom of Paris, and
Cute.
then that's how she got her name. And then this one is the one I was looking for. Her name is Kettle because her sire is Popcorn. So a lot of these
Oh,
have the same sire, but she looks a little different, and I think it's because she has a different sire. So
oh,
those are the
cute.
ones I know for sure. There's a couple other ones in here that I can't come up with their name right now.
Well, I was gonna say, even this group, it's a lot to keep track of, and so I don't know how you all. How do you keep track of all 3,000 cows? Like, right? I mean, just even a small group here, it's hard to remember names. So, how do you as farmers manage 3,000 plus cows on a farm?
So we use computer systems and we use ear tags. So even though
Ah,
we name some of these cows, mostly just the ones that are registered, they all have an ear tag. We use that ear tag for anything that might happen on the farm. So if when they have a calf, for instance, they change status in the computer from a heifer to a cow. When they're done milking, they milk for about 10 months of the year and then they go dry. That's what we call it when they're not milking before they have their next calf. And so that is kept track of in the computer. And then even things like if they get sick or get a vaccination, we need to be able to keep track of those things because a lot of times if an animal had to have medication, we'd have to dump her milk and not use it for people because we'd want to make sure all of
mhm,
that medication was out of the milk before it went to the grocery store and onto
mhm.
your cereal or in your glass.
Right. Wow. Incredible. I love how technology has just completely transformed how we're able to farm, right? And really have essentially a set of eyes on every single cow at all times because of tracking and technology and being able to just pull it right up on your phone. So that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I think maybe sometimes we think farming is just all pitchforks and overalls, but that is just not the case anymore. And you guys are a perfect example of that. Let's see. We have a curious question from Mrs. Lamont's class. They said, how do you give a cow a bath? Because I'm sure the ones here in this pen, since they're shown, are getting a bath. So how does that work?
So the first thing we do is we put a halter on them because we really can't just chase them around. They can run away from us with with a water hose. We wouldn't have a water hose long enough. So we put a halter on them. And then we tie the halter to a post near where we have where we have water, and then
Mhm,
we just make some soapy water and scrub it all in, and use some nice brushes to make it feel good on them, and then rinse it
mhm.
all off. And
Cool.
so you'll see some of these, like this one, Cordelia and Matilda and Daphne, have shorter hair than like this one right here, this little
Hmm.
one. She was never shown at a fair because she was on the younger side of this group. And so
Gotcha.
she never got a bath for the fair. But she does, she's nice and clean out here.
Sure.
So anyway, but yeah, just soapy water. There's special shampoo that's made for cows, and that's what we use on them.
That's
And
cool.
then we give them a haircut and we give them a mohawk. That's the most fun thing about these cows when they went to the shows. That hair on their back we left real tall so we could make them look a little taller because that's one of the ways that judges judge them at a fair.
Huh. So these girls in the pen here, they definitely get a little extra special treatment, right? They'll get those baths, they'll get brushed and stuff. But for the regular milking herd, I mean, it's the same thing as what we're seeing here, right? You just made that comment that even though that one hasn't gotten a bath, she's still very clean. That's because you keep the space clean. So same thing with our milk cows, right? As long as you keep the barns clean, they naturally will stay clean.
And especially the way that we house them in freestall barns, they're on sand beds. And just like
Oh,
when you go to the beach, the sand might stick to you a little bit, but it doesn't make you dirty.
right.
It's inorganic, the material of sand, so that's really important for keeping them clean. And more than just keeping their skin and their legs and their head and the parts that we might interact with clean, it keeps their udder clean. So when they're making milk, it makes really high quality milk because there's no bacteria in that sand to then get onto their udder and into the milk. So that's why we use sand bedding, just
Mhm.
because we want to produce the highest quality milk possible.
Wow. That's incredible. I love
And
that
it's
they're
comfortable for the cow.
right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love that they're at the beach every day, which is probably a little more common for you in Florida than it is for me in Pennsylvania. But it still sounds pretty amazing that you get to be on the beach all the time, essentially, for those older girls. Very cool.
Yes.
So we had that we were talking about milking earlier, and it sparked some more questions, just trying to get more details. So, we had some folks curious, like how many calves do you think Daphne and Matilda will have in their lifetime? And then when they have a calf, like how long do they produce milk for, before they have to have another calf and things like that? So how does that work?
So, like I said, they have their first calf when they're about 2, and the
Sure.
perfect cow has a calf every single year. And so she makes milk for about 300 days after she has that calf. And the it's called a lactation curve. And so when she starts
Hmm.
making milk, she makes a lot of milk and then it starts to drop off. And so when it starts dropping off, that's the perfect time for her to go dry and have a little break. It also makes it where her udder is, it's called involution. That's your big word for the day, where
Yeah.
her udder can make colostrum again. We have to give her a chance to do that because those calves need colostrum.
Hmm.
And so even though the mom doesn't raise the calf at the farm, she provides that most important thing to her, and that's that first milk or colostrum. So she'll make milk for about 10 months, get dried off, and just kind of go on vacation in the pasture for 2 months. She'll have her next calf, and that'll start again. We
Hmm.
would love for them to have 4 to 5 calves in their lifetime. That'd be a really good cow.
Hmm.
And some cows have less than that, and some cows have more than that. They're just
Sure.
like us, they're individuals. We use a lot of technology, not just in the computers and the ear tags, but every single one of our calves has a genetic test done when they are 1 day old. And that tells us
Wow.
basically how healthy they're going to be. Obviously, environment and management affect that, but
Hmm.
overall, it tells us if this one, is going to be more healthy and stay in the herd longer than her herd mates. So we're
Hmm.
doing everything that we can to make sure that we have the healthiest, best animals that can stick around for a long time.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
not only is that better for the environment and sustainability, it's also better for the farmers to stay in business.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So four to five calves would mean the average life expectancy then would be between somewhere around 6 and 7 years old, right? So if we're
Right,
starting to have calves around 2 years old. Okay. We have some
right.
questions
So
about that too.
yeah, Daphne and Matilda, they have exceptional moms that are still making a lot of milk. And um, Daphne's mom is 11 and Matilda's mom is 9. So there's
Wow.
certainly ones that exceed
Exceptions.
those, yes, those normals. But that would be the average. And who knows, with the genetic improvements that we're making, 10 or 11 years old might be the normal. But when you think about that in people years, that's like 100 years old. It's kind of like 10
Wow.
years for 1 year for us is like 10 years for a
Hmm.
cow.
Incredible. Wow. So those their mamas are definitely kind of the queen of the bunch, I would say, at pushing 9 and 11 years old. I love
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
We had a couple questions of different variations of curious about how do you keep the cows protected in the elements? You mentioned the elements, right? And it gets really hot in Florida. There can be hurricanes in Florida. Like, what do you do to help protect them from heat and sun and that kind of thing?
So you can see right now, I mean, we're out here, so we're kind of interrupting their normal. But cows normally will, during this time of the day when the sun's really high, they will be in the shade. And you can see that Daphne and Matilda are the smartest ones of the group because they made it to the shade first. So they will stay in the shade and graze in the shade. When it gets later in the day and it's not as sunny, then they'll go out and they'll graze in the sunnier spots. So
Sure.
if we provide them shade, they can do that themselves. Sorry, I
Hmm.
mixed up. That was Crumble, not Matilda. She's right over here. Sorry, we're
Oh,
trying to
there we
keep
go.
track of them as they move around. Um, but at the farm, they're in freestall barns, and those freestall barns are designed by an engineer, just like an engineer would, build your house to sustain winds and hurricanes and elements and all that kind of stuff. So they're made out of steel, which is really strong, and a lot of concrete. So
Hmm.
it's not often that those buildings are going to be damaged. So during a hurricane or bad weather, they stay in those barns. They're protected from the rain. It's one of my favorite times to go to the farm because it just shows you how smart and and how cool animals are because the cows will all be laying down. So that's kind of their, when you think about
Hmm.
things flying around in the wind, they know, to lay down and to
Hunker
just
down.
kind of, yeah, hunker down. So
Wow.
cows, I think, are the best at that phrase. But I mean, other safety things when we have a storm, we make sure, just like you guys probably do at home, that anything that
Sure.
could fly away or hit them, if it was flying around, is put away. We test all of our equipment to make sure that
Mm.
everything's going to run as it should if we lose power. So we have huge generators that we can continue to work even if we lose power, because unfortunately that's a really common thing during a storm. And then the other thing we do is we protect our people. So because people
Mm.
still have to work, we have extra protective equipment, and a lot of people work in teams.
Gotcha. Wow. Sounds like you guys certainly have a plan in place, which you would need to, right? If you have 3,000 plus lives in your hands that are cows and people, there definitely needs to be a plan in place. So, but thank you for answering that and walking us through. I know it's very relevant for anyone that lives in Florida. So, we appreciate that. Goodness, I don't know where our time went, Farmer Colleen, but we are already approaching our half hour mark here. I did just want to give you a little shout out. Thank you to those who did the math. Many of you were correct. Yes, 380 pounds was what we had gotten to. I was just scrolling back through here to find those numbers. And Farmer Colleen, I did want to have one more question for you. Right, we've talked a lot about, you guys are working round the clock, right? You're milking them, you're feeding them, you're taking care of all the ages, and it's a lot of cows. And you wear a lot of hats doing a lot of different things. What is your why behind all of this? Like what is the ultimate motivator that tells you to get up and do this every single day?
Well, they encourage me with their mooing to get up, but really the real why is just that it's just an honor to be part of the process of taking care of these animals, who then in turn take care of us. And that was something that my husband's grandfather, the he Red Larson, he started Larson Dairy, and he said, take care of the cow and she will take care of you. And we as a family
Mm.
believe that very strongly. And not only do they take care of us because it's our livelihood, they take care of the land that we live on. So cows are great recyclers. They recycle a lot of feeds, and the things that they eat. They eat byproducts that would
Yeah.
otherwise be trash. They are great at kind of
Mm.
improving the land healthy for us. And they also, these cows at Larson Dairy, their manure creates electricity through a methane digester. So they're taking care of us in so many ways. And then just to
Wow.
kind of further see that, where they're taking care of all of us by feeding us. So dairy
Mm.
products, especially milk, is, one of the most nutritious things we can choose every day. And so, taking care of us, allowing us to help feed other people, and then just, providing this lifestyle is something that I'm very passionate and fortunate to be part of.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Farmer Colleen, for sharing that passion with all of us and leading and having that passion lead into caring, so taking such great care of all of these cows. Um, like you said, right, all of those delicious products that they are making for us. We couldn't, I would not do well without all my ice cream and milk and cheese and cottage cheese and all those good things. So
Me
we
too.
really, right? So truly, thank you so much for your dedication to the industry and all that you do to provide that healthy and wholesome product for us. Anything else that you wanted to share with us today before we tune off?
I just want to tell everybody thank you. I hope you come back next year and tell your fellow teachers and students. We're already kind of picking out which cows might have a calf that fits the program, and
Oh,
we're super excited to bring a couple more calves to the students
mhm.
and people across Florida next year. So thank you, and especially thank you for all the letters and emails. It's just a joy to read those and just see how
Oh.
much the kids connect with the calves and the questions, and just being able to connect this way. So thank you for participating.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Thank you. This has been an amazing visit today. A huge thank you to Farmer Colleen for opening up your barn doors and just letting us get a chance to meet Matilda and Daphne and see them up close and just, what do they do every day. And thank you all for the classrooms, the teachers, the students, the libraries, assisted living centers, everybody that's on with us today. Thank you all for joining us, for asking great questions, and just really bringing a lot of excitement into the chat today. There were many questions and check-ins, so thank you so much for doing that. We hope you had a lot of fun learning about life on the farm and seeing how your adopted calf grew this year. If you love this experience, we would love to have you join the adventure again. So go ahead and mark your calendars for enrollment on May 1st at discoverdairy.com/adopt. We would love to have you back, and we would encourage you to welcome a friend into the program. From all of us at Discover Dairy and Larson Dairy, thank you for spending your morning with us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.